Listen to me. There's no way, bruh. There's no way that I'ma have a convoy of cars and somebody's gonna ride up to my principal and kill them.
Davis was taken into custody Friday morning near his home. He'd been on investigators' radar for years. Davis has made public admissions, including one in his memoir, that he was in the car from which Shakur was fatally shot.
Guys, may I say it looks like we finally found Tupac's killer. After 27 years of debates, gossip, and accusations, the truth is finally out. But y'all know Gene Deal never hesitates to spill every chance he gets. So this time around, he says it's all a lie and Keffe D isn't the one behind Tupac's murder. Then who is it? Is Gene telling us the truth? Well, I'm sure y'all can't wait to find out. So welcome to CELEBbible. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more juicy celebrity news. Now, Gene Deal says something shocking in a recent interview. In this interview, Gene Deal told us that Dwayne Davis, popularly called Keffe D, believes that if he's going to jail for Tupac, Reggie should go to jail for Biggie. But that's not the craziest part. The craziest part of what he said was that Tupac's death was in-house. I mean, he said the assassination was carried out by none other than members of the West Coast.
That was all West Coast, bruh. That was all in-house. If you ask me, that was all in-house.
But not just the West Coast. He also said both Tupac and Biggie's death has something to do with death row's people. But guys, we all know Keffe is a part of the Southside Compton Crips gang. So what does that mean? His recent arrest and prosecution are indeed on the wrong basis. I mean, this man confessed to being in the Cadillac from which bullets were being fired that killed Tupac. So what exactly should we believe? According to the interview, Gene Deal, he was asked if Keffe would drag Diddy into the whole case of Tupac's death, especially if he went to jail. This was what led to Gene spilling that Death Row was the one who had hands in Tupac's murder. From his narrative, Gene says that Suge, who's one of the founders of Death Row, was firing people, and Tupac was also probably having issues with some of Death Row's members, which may be why they decided to get him.
I think they got one of them bad boy niggas. They said they was gonna get him. Who was they? Had to be Death Row. Somebody affiliated with them. Somebody he was around there. Who Pac had problems with? People at Death Row. He was firing people. Suge was firing people.
But when we look at what he said further, he may have a point when he says the assassination was done in-house. He said someone can't drive up the road, pass through a convoy of cars, and shoot the person in front. This, according to Gene, is why it must have been an inside job.
Listen to me. There's no way, bruh. There's no way that I'ma have a convoy of cars and somebody's gonna ride up to my principal and kill them. Because if we don't know you, what's somebody gonna say? They're gonna get out of line. Yo, get behind that guy. Who's that? Go right on close to him, blow your horn, do all kinds of stuff. Pull on the side of him, go up on the sidewalk. What you doing, man? That's how you do.
Well, this may be according to the street code, but at the same time, anything can happen. Just because something's impossible in the streets doesn't mean it's completely impossible. But still, all these that Gene has said just don't add up to what was recently discovered about Keffe in relation to Tupac's murder. Now, perhaps y'all didn't get the news, but the police have arrested Keffe and he is currently in their custody. According to news sources, he's the last living suspect from the list of those who were believed to be involved in the murder. And at this time, y'all can't believe how the police found out about him. It was a really sloppy move on Keffe's part because he wasn't thinking when he did it.
Davis was taken into custody Friday morning near his home. He'd been on investigators' radar for years. Davis has made public admissions, including one in his memoir, that he was in the car from which Shakur was fatally shot.
Okay, as you just watched, the police have had eyes on him for a long time because he's a known gang member of Southside Crips who's been reported to have some problems with Tupac. Now, Keffe wasn't the leader of the other three suspects who are now deceased. He was arrested because he was an accomplice. He mentioned it in several interviews and clearly stated in his memoirs that he was in the car with the people who shot Tupac. Tupac made an erratic move and began to reach down beneath his seat. It was the first and only time in my life that I could relate to the police command, keep your hands where I could see them. Instead, Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of my guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. This was the cue that led to the arrest some days ago while he was taking a walk close to his house. Now you see why I mentioned he was sloppy. I mean, how could he publish that and not expect to be arrested? Plus, in Nevada, being an accomplice to a crime is enough to get you convicted. So basically, it doesn't matter if you didn't commit the crime. Keith, you were there, so you will pay for it. The police also clearly stated that Dwayne Davis was the shot caller for the group of individuals that committed the crime, and he orchestrated the plan that was carried out. And remember when I said that Keith had issues with Tupac? Well, when we followed his story, we discovered that Tupac had beaten up Keith's nephew on the night of the shooting. That night, Tupac and his entourage came to attend the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. So according to the police, there was footage from the hotel of Tupac and Suge Knight beating up Keith's nephew Anderson. It took the intervention of the hotel staff before the beating stopped. Keith mentioned this in his memoir when he said, when conversations would come up about $1 million bounty on the heads of Suge Knight and Tupac, that was business. But Tupac, Suge, and them death row niggas jumped on my nephew Baby Lane. The shit became ominously personal. So we understand that news reached Keith about what Tupac had done, and he decided to take revenge. Wow, so much about this case is unraveling, making people wonder where all this information has been. But when we look at it again, Keith always claimed involvement in the murder in several interviews before now. So we are wondering why the police are deciding to pick him up on it now. Could the pressure have been too much on them to find a killer? Or is this some sort of PR stunt to make the authorities look good? Well, guys, this is no PR stunt, as Keith's memoir tells us everything we need to know about Tupac's assassination. He described what happened on the night of the murder in detail. When the group stopped to buy champagne, Keffe D moved to the Cadillac with Bubble Up, Freaky, and Baby Lane, and put the Glock in the back. He then described seeing Tupac stick his head out of the BMW, Bubble Up turning their car around, and pulling up next to Tupac at night at a stoplight. He wrote that Knight looked terrified, and Tupac reached for a gun. That's when the fireworks started, he wrote. One of my guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. They then drove off and even saw the 2 ambulances carrying Tupac and Knight. The group ditched their Cadillac and then popped our bottles and partied like it was another night. Well, I guess the only way we'll ever know is to let things unfold. Currently, Keith is in his 60s, and one may think he probably has nothing else to live for, so he's allowed such information to slip out with any fears. Keith also has cancer, although it's in remission. And according to his story, his mother died from colon cancer when he was 15. Later in 2014, he developed the same cancer that killed his mother and lost 2 of his brothers to cancer and street violence respectively. So yeah, Keith has always been a gangster. He claims to have met Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight when he was 9. But alongside being in a gang, Keith was also a drug dealer back when he was younger. Working at Compton College wasn't bringing in enough bags, so he took the opportunity to sell drugs and like how he was making good money. Well, honestly, Keith's story is the regular tale of most gang members. They mostly end up dealing drugs and getting themselves some jail time. In fact, Keith went to prison around 1985 to 1989 on drug dealing charges. According to him, being in prison didn't rehabilitate him, but it made him smarter, rougher, and his thoughts better.
Now, for some people, prison makes them say, I'm not going to do anything more illegal, I'm done. But you went the exact opposite way.
No, it just made me smarter, that's all. Made me street smarter, it made me a little rougher, and made my thoughts a little bit better.
Okay.
Now, that's interesting if you ask me. I guess all we need to do now is look forward to more information from the police and see what punishment Keith's gonna get for his crimes. After 27 years, some light has appeared at the end of the tunnel, and we can't wait to see what it is.